everyone can do more. Everyone can accomplish more. Everyone can create a business. It doesn't take anyone special to do that. All it takes is hard work, dedication, and consistency. Like we were saying before, you only fail when you give up. You never give up, you never fail. So in my head, there was nothing stopping me. There was nothing in my way that could stop me doing that. So I knew when I left that, when I made my decision to put that bit of paper on the desk and say, I'm handing in my notice, I knew from that moment that I put that letter on that desk, that I'm never giving up.
The key thing is you need to lead a life by design, your own design, opposed to a life by comparison. If you're comparing yourself to other people, you're never going to truly be happy because there'll always be someone who's got more than you.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Need to Succeed podcast. And like I say every single time, this podcast has now been designed to really speak to some successful people and understand what is their mindset. Because oftentimes what happens is two sets of people can go through the exact same scenario, the exact same situation. One person decides because of the situation, I am going to become wildly successful. And the other person decides because of the situation, it's actually going to halt my success. Now, what's the difference between these two people? That's exactly what we look to uncover on this podcast. And today we have got two phenomenal guests. Now, these are two young gentlemen who are absolutely trailblazing in the property industry. At a very, very tender age, and I will let them review it out for themselves, they have been able to build a six-figure property business and have been involved in over 7 figures worth of property deals themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Lewis and James of Platinum Property.
Thanks a lot, Ibrahim. That was amazing. We're going to have to match that energy now.
Did you enjoy
I had the
that?
extra coffee. I had the extra coffee.
That's good, that's good.
That was a brilliant introduction. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. And, genuinely, guys, I think we met probably about a couple of months ago.
Yes.
And it was at a networking event and we really connected. And I was just super impressed by you guys. And it's an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you both here.
Amazing. Thanks for having us on. I mean, that exact networking event, you was a guest speaker at. We loved your energy. You know, people say to me about my energy and speaking fast, speaking quick, and high energy. But you must have matched that on the day, and that's what drew me to you. So we were actually doing a networking event there as well. We're going to be guest speakers beginning of next year, so that's going to be crazy as well.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, definitely. I will come and repay the honors. We've got tradition on this podcast, all right? And the very, very first question to absolutely everyone is, what does success actually mean to you guys?
I'll let you take the reins first, James.
Okay, well, for me, success means freedom. I just want to get to a certain point in my life where I'm earning enough so that I can be completely free from anything. I can just do what I want, spend time with my family, and that's all it means to me. It doesn't mean a certain set figure. To me, it just means freedom. If I can get up in the morning and not have to do something and not be forced to do something, and I can carve my own path and my own life and choose things that I want to do, explore my creativity and that type of thing, that's what success means to me. I just want to get to that point that I can truly express my creativity, and the only way to get to that point is to get money. Get to a point where you can become completely passive, and at that point you could just that's me.
Family. That's the main goal.
The main thing for me is my family. I've got a 16-month-old daughter, and I love her to bits, and all I want to do is spend time with her. But unfortunately, you can't do that. If you want to be successful, you have to sacrifice some things. But I'm hoping to pay her back in the next few years. When I am completely passive, I will pay her back all the time that I'm missing out of her now, and more. So she's my ambition. She's my drive that pushes me forward. And I hope that answered the question.
Wow, brilliantly well, brilliant. I could, when you start talking about you doing it, I could really see the passion and, what's really driving you. Brilliant. Yeah. And how about yourself?
You've both got 16-month-year-olds, haven't you?
Yes, we do. I do it the same.
We know the pains.
Yeah, I've got an 8-year-old, so slightly different along the path. But just same as James. I mean, I actually started with my construction company at the beginning with my daughter. When I found out my partner was pregnant, so that was the start of my journey. But for me, I actually think the definition of success is slightly maybe misunderstood, because I think it's down to the individual, not just about. Everyone represents the word success with a financial figure. I will be successful when I hit X. I will be successful when I hit X. I think it's dependent on the person and the situation and what their goals are. Your goal might be, I want to live in Beverly Hills and live in this mansion and do this, that and the other. That may be your goals and what you actually want to do, which is fair enough. That would make you successful when you get to that point. Me, I want to hit a certain point where, like you say, it's all passive and I can spend more time with the family. And that, for me, is the definition of success. That's where I'll get to. On the other hand, a mate of mine, which is a very good example, he used to work in a shop in retail, and as crazy as he loves painting and decorating, and he loves Spurs, massive Spurs fan. Right now, he's just secured a job at Spurs, full-time, painting the Spurs Stadium. I said this to James the other day.
He's a maintenance man for the Spurs Stadium.
He's the maintenance guy and does all the decorating for Spurs. That's insane. Now, like, we had a conversation the other day and he was like, I can't wait to, I'd love to be successful, you this, that and the other. And I was like, bro, like, you are more successful than me. It's not a financial figure, it's a goal. It's a where you want to be at and the path to that. Now, he is a painting decorator at Spurs. He loves painting. He actually loves painting and decorating, and he loves Spurs. For me, he's there. He's done it. Yeah. He's reached it. He's reached success. Success isn't a financial figure. For me, it's about your personal goals and getting to them and understanding the process.
Brilliant stuff, brilliant. And I think that's that's the beauty. Like, you guys are both sat next to each other, but even you could ask 15 people what success means, and you probably get 15 different answers. Yeah, cool. And that's the beauty of it. But what I really like that you've highlighted is, look, we don't like to talk about money, right? And a lot of people do put too much emphasis on money when it comes to success, because that's ultimately what people feel is going to give them that success. That's what success means. But it's never really money, is it? It's normally, what can I do with money?
It's what it buys.
Yeah. And underpinning what you've both said,
if you break down any sort of goal, you can quantify how much money that you actually require for that goal. And that, money is always a part of goals and ambitions. But if you can achieve, like, say for example, for me, I know exactly what I need to achieve what I want in life. For example, I want to own a farmhouse, I want to have land, and I want to have a forest on my land. That's my goal, right?
We want to have a land and forest on the land.
It's a lot cheaper than you might think, right?
Beverly Hills and have the lemon. No,
but yeah, I mean that's my goal. Like, I just want to live in the hills, of nice, nature. I love nature, so that's my goal. But I can quantify how much money I require for that goal, and that's what drives me. So I think having a quantifiable number in your mind, what you actually need, and then working towards that goal, that's definitely beneficial. But you can't just focus on the money.
It's understanding it. It's people go success, money. Personally, I'd say, right, what's your end goal look like? Where do you actually want to be? What if yours is X, mine's X, and yours is X? Go, what is that? Okay, cool. That is where I want to be, and that is my definition of where I want to be at. Then you've got to work backwards from that. That's where I want to be at. How do I achieve that? And a lot of the time, the middle ground does come down to money, but then it's an objective of how you create that and how you get there. Success is not financial, it's a goal, but sometimes it requires finances. And most of the time, requires finances to get to that goal. But just like my mate, who works at Spurs, and he's a painting decorator, it didn't require him money to be what I class as more successful than me. He would say it the other way around, but it was a light bulb moment for him when I explained it like that, because he was like, oh yeah, well, I'm at where I want to be. And he's got all the time in the world, he works normal hours, he gets all the time with his missus, goes out at the weekends, does all of that normal sort of stuff. I'm working 6 till 12, 5-6 days a week, and then try and squeeze in some family time, but still doing viewings and other bits and pieces on the weekends. And so he's got much more time than me.
That's such a great point as well, isn't it? Because oftentimes what people do is we look at other people and we look, I always say this pretty much on every podcast I do, right? Because I want to highlight it. People can look at Instagram and look at all of these little short clips and, get this idea of that's what perfection looks like that's what success looks like. But you just said there, you were able to highlight to your friend, well, actually, you love Spurs. You love painting and decorating. You've got a job painting and decorating at Spurs. And he had to hear it from you to be like, oh yeah, shit, I've cracked it.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
You know, and that's the thing that you've got to sometimes just look within and say, what does it actually mean to me? I don't care what's happening out there. You know, what would make me feel fulfilled to really get that definition of success. So,
Of course.
brilliant stuff. Brilliant.
Going back to when you said, sorry.
Now, go ahead.
You started talking now, you're going to reel me off now. Going back to what you said about comparing people when you see them on Instagram or this, that, and the other, I think that's the biggest problem as well, because people compare themselves to other people. Now, I think you should only compare yourself to you. So, like, where you want to be at. If you look at someone else and go, oh, I'd love to be in that, in you know, where he is, or have that many properties, or do whatever that wants to be, that's fine as a good comparable. But don't go, oh, he's here and I'm there. You know, go, where am I? Where was I? And then look at the process. It's never a fair comparable to compare you to everyone else, because everyone's circumstances are different. I say, if there was an example before, someone got a car and they said, it's not the best car in the world, it's only X amount, this, that, and the other. I was like, yeah, but what was the car you had before? And he was like, it's X. I was like, well done, man. Like, congratulations. You've upgraded. You're taking a positive step in your life. Like, that's progress. It's progress.
You've leveled up.
It's progress, you on you. Not you versus anyone else. It doesn't matter if you've upgraded to a $2,000 car, but John down the road's got a Lamborghini. It doesn't matter. It's different scenarios. It's you versus you, and you've got to do that every step of the way. And that's where I think people get confused, because they look at people online and they go, oh my God, he's this. Oh my God, he's that. I want to be there.
Amazing.
I think the key thing is you need to lead a life by design, your own design, opposed to a life by comparison. If you're comparing yourself to other people, you're never going to truly be happy, because there'll always be someone who's got more than you.
You can be inspired.
Yes,
you cannot be.
Yeah, you can. You need to flip that perspective on it, and instead of being demotivated by, you know, when you see someone who's more successful than you are, you need to be inspired. And like I say, you need to live a life by design. You need to decide what you want to do, figure out what actions you need to take to achieve that, and just do it.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, let's talk about your life then, boys, yeah? Yeah, because, you know, I really find it intriguing. You know, I'm really inspired, you know, by you two. Like, how did you guys actually come to become a team?
Well, we're actually brother-in-laws. So, it's, to be honest...
So it was by force?
Yeah. We didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, we just got merged together and go, you two better figure it out and make some money. So I've had a construction company for the last 5 years, and that was my sole thing, you know, and I built that very, very well, I believe. We've not had a bad review, and I spent quite a lot of time and a hell of a lot of energy making sure that no matter what, my customer was, you know, was happy, my reputation. It's about building your reputation, building your name, building your brand. So I've done that after a while, but I always knew I wanted to get into property. Now, what I think is if you want to expand and you want to work in a certain space, you then decide whether you want to do it alone or do it with someone. I personally believe that a good attribute to have is to have a piece of the pie, not just the whole pie, because there's only so many whole pies you can have. I'd rather work with people to grow together than by myself. Now, Jamie's done the same with me, I believe, and I've done the same with him, but I was looking at who I'd like to work with within the property space, because I didn't want to do it alone. And James is incredibly smart. He is all of the positives that he has, all of the attributes that he has are my weaknesses, and all of his weaknesses are my strengths. And I could see that, and I looked at it for quite some time. You know, different scenarios and things like that, and really looking into it. You know, he's done what was the bestseller on Amazon for a certain product. It created an Amazon business from scratch, done amazing. Completed a university degree, and was working full time, all simultaneously. It wasn't just full-time job and then done a master's and then done this. It was all simultaneously. And I just thought that the work ethic and the drive behind that, in order to get to what he'd set a goal. He was like, right, I need to do this. And no matter what, he'd done it. And that, for me, was a good sign from a business perspective, because it's all transferable. You know, whether it's at gym, whether it's at your personal, whether it's business, whatever it is, the way that you do things is a very transferable quality within that. And I knew then that I wanted to work with James. There was something else that we was going to do before within the property space, and he said no. I didn't go ahead with it. So then we decided to do this. And
we figured out a way that was going to work for both of us. Yeah. And I mean, just going on to Lewis's point about his construction company, I mean, that was one of the main things that drew me towards Lewis, because I see how, coming from a construction background myself, I see the inner workings of other businesses, other construction companies that weren't necessarily operating at the highest level, and were very blasé. They weren't structured, and I knew the ins and outs. As a project manager, I used to manage extensions and loft conversions, full-scale refurbs, that type of thing. And seeing how other people operated their businesses, and then seeing the inner workings of Lewis's businesses, and Lewis's construction company primarily, I knew that Lewis is separated from other people. He's not like other people. He wants to achieve more, and that drew me towards him. And the work ethic and the amount of structure and the thought that goes into what Lewis does, that definitely drew me towards him. And being in the same family as me now, by marriage pretty much, I couldn't escape it. And then he kept asking me to do things. Okay, all right.
You started off so well. It was like I was going to make a big point. Like, we haven't, we mentioned that, but
yeah. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better business partner. It's exactly like he said. We're yin and yang. He is super charismatic, very well structured, disciplined. All the things that there's definitely overlaps between us. I believe I'm very disciplined myself.
Compounds like the mentality and the drive and the enthusiasm, and most importantly, what I find in the space is your morals and ethics. They are the biggest compound, like the biggest things in my head when working with someone. You can have all of the best qualities in the world, but if you work with someone that have not got the right morals and ethics within the space, I don't care how good you are. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to work with you because you don't.
At some point, they're going to betray your trust.
Of course, and it's about trust. And it's also, if you want to, I spent such a long time with my reputation on my construction company, that needs to be transferred. And if I'm working with someone that doesn't, we would only sell the deals that we buy ourselves. So if you're working with someone that is just out for a quick buck and they don't have the right morals or ethics, then at some point that's going to cross, and and they're going to tarnish your reputation, and all that's going to happen.
They will always choose the money over you. So we want to stay away from that as much as possible. And I think that me and Lewis together, we both have our morals aligned. We both know what we want. We want to achieve success, but we want to achieve it in a moralistic and ethical way. And to us, that's the most important thing. We want to do it. We don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to cause anyone pain or anything. If anything, our business model is primarily focused around mutual benefit. So we can't
as much value as possible.
Exactly. We can't sell a deal unless they win and we win. We won't feel right selling an investment deal unless that person on the other end that's buying it and putting their faith in us to actually purchase the property and go through with the investment plan that we've set out. If they're not making money, we shouldn't be making money. That's just the short and simple.
If I want to put my hand in my pocket and buy that property myself, then I'm not going to sell it. Because I know that I spent a long time I spent 10 years researching property. Like before I started my construction company, before I started anything, it was property. That's what I knew what my end goal was. So it was about working towards that goal. It's been a very long journey, but like starting from there and going, right, I'm going to create this business to make this business and then do this. So, I believe I'm very well educated in that space. And if I know deep down that deal doesn't work, then I have to walk away and not make money because my morals and ethics won't allow me to. And I think that's where, it's very rare to have two people where their morals and ethics align, but their qualities, like in what they can bring to the table, are quite opposite, because then we can work with each other. I deal with certain parts, he deals with certain parts, and together, I believe it's powerful.
Yeah. I think it would be beneficial if you were to sort of start from the beginning and explain how you got to where you are now, because I think it's a very inspiring story how you come from where you were to where you are now.
He's asked the question, so I'm listening.
This is my podcast.
What's going on? I mean, you look a bit different than that, right? Well, I mean,
so just take us back to who were you? I was going to say as a young man, but you're a young man now. But who were you? When you were even younger, let's say when you were in school, and just kind of start from there.
I mean, school and college. I mean, I always had something that I wanted to, become better. But it was really when my little girl was born. It was actually my missus, to be fair. That missus and my daughter was the ones that actually made me go, right, you need to snap out of it, because I wasn't always, I was a typical teenager. Let's put it that way.
What does that mean?
That means just, drugs, likes fighting, was just made reckless decisions.
Undisciplined.
Undisciplined.
Impulsive.
Yeah, all right. Fat, impulsive, ugly, depressed. No, I'm joking. No, but that's the way I was. And then my missus and my daughter sort of gave me that kick. You know, I was working in a warehouse, and I had an opportunity to become a manager of this warehouse, where I think it was about 45 grand a year. Was the salary
At young ages?
at a young age, yeah.
How old were you then?
I must have been 22. Okay. 20, maybe younger. Between 20 to 22. I got offered this job at 45 grand, managing a warehouse of hundreds of people, being one of the managers. I think there was half a dozen managers to manage these hundreds and hundreds of people. But at that age, at 45 grand, it was very appealing. But I knew that I wanted more. I knew I wanted better, and I knew that I wanted to better myself and my family. And I was working nights in the warehouse, and that wasn't where I wanted to be in 5, 10, 15 years. I didn't want to retire there. I was seeing people there that had been there for 25 years and thought, is this my future? Is this where I want to be at? And it actually really clicked in my head in that moment when I thought, you know, we was all discussing about holidays, and they were like, oh, I can't wait till next year because I've booked Mexico for next year, and it cost me X amount a month to pay it off till that point. Now, what a lot of people do, and especially in a 9 to 5 sort of space, and it's normal to do so, is they have a holiday in the middle of the year. When they come off that holiday, they go, right, where are we going to book for next time this year so we can start paying it off until that point? And in my head, I was like, this is not a way of living. Like, I work in a freezer in a warehouse, and I look forward to 10 days a year. When I go away, I come home and then I book a holiday and I have to pay it off for next year. So I look forward to 10 days a year, and the rest of the time I'm working in a freezer at nights, not seeing my family. And it wasn't for me. So I took the gamble to start my own business and turned down this 45 grand a year job. At first, it wasn't good, you know. But
what do you mean it wasn't good?
Financially, you know, financially, mentally, it was hard. It was a struggle. It wasn't easy. People think that, you know, just starting up and going. And people even say to me now, oh, it's all right for you because you've got money. I started off in massive debt, living in a council flat with no money. Like, I was in debt. Like, I didn't start off, my mum and my dad had no money. No, I didn't have any family member that went, here's X amount of thousands of pounds to start a business. I had none of that. I had no funding. I had no nothing.
What made you decide to, you know, break your safety blanket and go and do that? You know, you had 45 grand on the table. You know, why should we feel sorry for you when you decided to, you know, give all of that up?
I don't think anyone should feel sorry, but I think what people should do is realise that there's opportunity out there, and you don't have to settle for. If you're not happy in that scenario long term, then it isn't for you. And I knew that wasn't for me. I knew that everyone can do more. Everyone can accomplish more. Everyone can create a business. It doesn't take anyone special to do that. All it takes is hard work, dedication, and consistency. Like we were saying before, you only fail when you give up. If you never give up, you never fail. So in my head, there was nothing stopping me. There was nothing in my way that could stop me doing that. So I knew when I left that, when I made my decision to put that bit of paper on the desk and say, I'm handing in my notice, I knew from that moment that I put that letter on that desk that I'm never giving up, no matter what.
Do you know what it is? I think the easiest decision is usually never the best. No. The hardest decision is usually the best one, because, you know, he could have stayed at that job and he could have been earning good money. Probably could have got a mortgage for a house and could have been living in a house, but he wouldn't have been happy. And he knew that then. So he made the difficult decision to turn that down and go and walk into, ultimately, you know, hard times. You know, long hours for less money. I actually spoke to someone who's got that position yesterday. Funny enough, on social media, and I know the salary and I know what it comes. But so they decided to stay, and I decided to leave. I know quite a lot of people that are still there. But the money that I earn from property now, that is on guaranteed rent on the product that we provide, this government backed, I don't have to deal with nothing. And I now earn more from those properties that are paying me money each month than I would have done in that 45 grand a year job. So the money that I earn now, just from the property cash flow, is more than the 45 grand a year that I would have got from that job.
Wow.
And, you know, that's just that. We have obviously a property investing company. You know, I have Brick Lane Bagel Co. in Harlow. my construction company. So I have different streams of income.
Risk reward.
Sorry?
Risk reward.
Risk reward, 100%.
Yeah.
So, you know, people look back and go, how do you do it? How do you do it? I stayed consistent. Nothing stopped me. I made sure that no matter what I'd done, I knuckled down and got it done.
When you decided to leave, you know, that position, did you have a clear plan?
No.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I didn't have a clear plan, but I knew that I wanted more. What it actually was is there was someone who had a construction company that wanted me to help them manage the construction company. And this is where morals and ethics come into it, because I worked with them. They said they'll match my wage, or close to my current wage, which was 30 grand a year. They didn't, but they would strip houses out and then walk away. Like, they were a con artist. They were the definition of a cowboy builder. As soon as I found that out, I said I'm out. I had no plan then, but I just knew that I couldn't be a part of that. So I left. I was actually on agency, working as maintenance guys here and there, on agency, being called in to a couple of days here, a couple of days there, just trying to get by to make some form of money. And I sold my car, so I had no vehicle.
How are you feeling in those moments where you'd given up security to go and, you know, go into this venture? You've realised it wasn't for you, and now you're doing not guaranteed income, really. You've
I felt
sold
a
your
big
car.
drive, to be honest. I felt a big drive because I stayed committed. I said, when I put that piece of paper down, like, nothing's going to stop me. And I was telling people in that, on the agencies, a couple of people that I spoke to recently that I told in that moment, I said, yeah, it's hit hard, but just watch. I'm going to create a construction company. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to become something.
Wow.
And that moment, like, there's never... I think in moments where things get hard, or where things don't go to plan, or you lose money or anything like that, I feel like there's value to be extracted. It isn't... if it costs you money or you lose money, whatever it may be, it isn't necessarily... you shouldn't look at it as a negative. There's always a value extracted from that. So for me, when I come away from there, I was like, right, okay, I know now 1,000,000% I don't want to ever make people feel like that. I see the clients crying. I knew within myself, I was like, right, I know. I already knew because I had my morals and ethics, but I knew, I was like, right, okay, I'm never letting that happen. No matter what, I'm never letting a client feel like that. Never. So I extracted that value. I've lost a total of about £40,000 through various property things. People, con artists. I'm not going to name names, of course. But again, one time that I did get conned from property was a very, very good videographer that shot these bits of content, and they had a very good social platform. Amazing. We was only talking about this earlier.
Yeah, everything from the outside looked amazing.
Looks like, if you looked at them, you'd be like, wow, they're smashing it. They're doing amazing. They must be the top dog. They must be phenomenal. And so, but that's what made me invest with them. But the reality is, if I'd done some digging on that person, I would have realised that, you know, to stay clear. But when I lost that money, I lost about 10 to 15,000 with that one individual. I was like, right, okay, what value can I extract from this? What brought me into that? What made me invest? And it was the videographers and the marketing. Guess what? In that moment, what did I do? I turned around and was like, I'm going to reach out to that videographer. I'm going to reach out to their marketing team. And I said, one day, I'm going to produce the content with my business, with our business now, and I'm going to make a success of it.
Wow.
But also be ethical.
Of course. And that's where, you know, the first learning curve come in, morals and ethics. This learning come in, I've got more value. So all of a sudden, I may have failed, which we spoke about earlier. The definition of failure, I think, is completely misunderstood. But I may have failed 15 times, but every single one of those 15 times, I've extracted a little bit of value, you know, each and every time.
It's never a failure, it's always a lesson.
Of course.
There's opportunity in every failure that you have.
It's just part of the journey. It's part of the process. It's not failure, it's process. And today, I said to you just before this podcast, we had our videographer send us over our content that we've just created. That was the exact same videographer that shot this guy that conned me out of money. And today was a bit of a realisation, really, because the content that I got through, because it was the same videographer, the camera was in a similar position, the lighting was in a similar position, everything was very similar.
Flashbacks.
So if you compare the two videos that actually got me over the line to sell me this deal, and the one that I've produced with the marketing, and James has produced with the marketing team, they're identical. The only difference is I've grown, I've got the morals and ethics, and we're going to put ourselves on that platform, and we're going to make sure that we.
We're going to change the game because we don't want to harm people. Genuinely, we want to provide a product or a service that is mutually beneficial. Like I said, I mean, we don't want to be like these type of people, and it's crazy that these people, we're not going to name names, are still operating and still taking people's
that construction
money.
company that I mentioned about that just ripped. In actual fact, when this goes out, if this person sees it, it's going to be pretty funny. But this particular individual, his best mate asked for a loft conversion. I know, but this particular person that's got a loft conversion is on my social media, so he may see this. But he was his best mate. Now he asked him for a loft conversion, so he went in and stripped the roof off, stripped his house apart, took a massive deposit, and then went ghost. And that was his best friend. Like he just ripped the roof off of his house, water coming down his stairs. This guy's worked extremely hard to save up for a mortgage to better his family. He's got kids, and he rips his best mate's roof off his house, takes 15 grand, and does a runner.
Wow.
Now, if that doesn't show, like, it's absolutely disgusting. And I think, again, the journey is about, it sort of molds you into,
It teaches you who you don't want to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can see from the way you've mentioned values and ethics so many times, and I understand in the construction industry, right? There is, it's non-thing. Cowboys, right? It's a non-thing. So I completely get it. But just kind of going back to actually leaving that firm, doing the part-time jobs. How did you what was the first steps into starting a construction company? How did you say, okay, you know what? I'm done with these jobs now.
Yeah.
And when did you make that decision? Like, okay, cool. I'm going for this.
Right. Well, first thing's education and experience. That's key. So what I've done is, I need to get in with a construction firm. So I got in with a construction firm, worked with those for several years, and I was like a sponge. I was just like, I need to absorb everything. I need to learn everything. Knowledge is not necessarily power. It's I think you actually may have said something very similar. I'll let you say this phrase.
Yeah, I'll put some content of this. The application of the knowledge.
Application
that's where
is the power, not the knowledge.
Yes.
So you can have all of the knowledge, but the application is what makes it. Right. So I've done exactly that. I absorbed. And when I felt like I was in the right space, I go, right, okay, now I'm starting up a firm. Spent a lot of time setting up the firm, getting people on board. I didn't work on the tools from the get-go because I knew if you're working in the business, you cannot work on your business. So if I was working...
Where did you learn that from? Because this was your first business, right? How are you able to, have that clarity of thought?
To be honest, I think it just comes down to, I was just...
You was watching other people and you probably realised, I don't want to be doing that.
It was just being open and just looking about and observant onto other businesses surrounding.
Because there's a few people that we know that I'm sure you took some inspiration from that were just doing crazy hours on their businesses.
Yeah. So that may have been a subconscious lead. It wasn't a conscious lead, but it definitely was a subconscious. And it was just paying attention and being vigilant.
And learning as much as you possibly could.
Of course. Like I say, education was key. So for me, I was like, I know I'd get stuck in the business. So I wanted to make sure I was working on my business to grow the business instead of working in. So I employed people from the get-go. There's a big risk, but without big risk, you don't get big reward. If I hadn't made that decision, I can almost guarantee I would, tonight when I was sitting down with you, my guys were working and we were sitting down discussing things, I guarantee I wouldn't have been able to make tonight because I was working in my business. Still now, I guarantee it. Because it's so hard to come out of your business when you're working in your business. It's such a hard, transition to do. So I decided I was going to work on my business. It was very, very, very hard. I sacked so many people. It was unbelievable. I put an ad out for a multi-skilled tradesman. I trialled 33 people. I sacked 32. Left with one person. That's a 3% ratio, and I'm pretty sure that everyone that watches this, that's in the property space, and has dealt with builders and tradesmen, knows exactly what I'm talking about because it's very, very hard. Now, so I spent the last 5 years building a very, very good company.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
How old are you?
28.
28. Okay, cool. And the reason I asked that question is because, you've just kind of skimmed over it. Hiring people is easy. Sacking people when it's something you haven't done before, very, very difficult. Because it's one of those things like it's almost a ruthless move.
Especially at a young
But
age.
it's got to
as
be
well.
done. But-
Especially as a young age, because
Yeah.
I'm looked upon as. I believe I'm a kind person. I think kindness can be taken for weakness sometimes.
Absolutely.
But I always say that, I'll be kind, I'll give. The second someone betrays my trust or doesn't produce what they say they can produce within the job, or let my customer down or anything like that, it's just a no-go. I don't tolerate it.
Was that a learned behaviour, or was that just something that it just came naturally to you?
It didn't come natural at all. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
Anything that's like that you step out your comfort zone for is going to be hard. Like, of course it is. But that's where people go, oh, I don't want to do that because it's out of my comfort zone. And that's where people stagnate and they become, they're just level ground all the time and they don't progress because they're too worried about that hard move. But for me, it was just a necessity. And I knew, based on my previous experiences, like I explained, that I was not prepared to let my customers down.
Yeah.
And if that meant I needed to sack one after the other, that's what I'll do.
Powerful. So you were being guided by ultimately your values and what you saw, the value you wanted to give to the end customer, and that gave you the energy to be able to say, okay, you know what? Which is the lesser of two evils? I'd rather get rid of you than see that person crying because we haven't delivered what we said.
It's the difficult decisions are usually the best ones. With that, I mean, you could have kept on a subpar tradesman and you could have delivered a subpar service, or that's not what you wanted to do. Ultimately, you wanted to deliver an exceptional service, and the only way to achieve that is to hire the best people. And in construction, it's very difficult to find people that are genuinely interested in the work that they do and genuinely enjoy it and genuinely
High
want
standard
to
and
provide
trustworthy.
a high standard.
High standard and trustworthy is very hard to come by. But I knew, like, if I always look at it like, say, like this, the property side of space, I wouldn't sell a deal if I was to buy it. I wouldn't complete a project that I wouldn't be happy in my own home. Like, I pick things apart. Like, I go, if a tiler's come in and done tiling, I look over every single part of it. I've got a phenomenal tiler, but over the process of finding the right tiler, I pull it apart. I look at every single bit. And if I was to pull it, then the customer could pull it. Doesn't matter if the customer doesn't pull it. If I can pull it,
That's what matters.
then it's coming off and it's being redone. Standard.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Another thing, just within the construction industry, because I work with a lot of people in construction as well, and it's always difficult for them to have a team because they can't provide them enough work, which means they can't actually have them on full time, and then they have to keep subbing, and then when they need a sub, they might not be available for that job, and it's like a revolving cycle.
Cool.
But you made a decision right from the get-go to actually hire these people into your business as staff, which is obviously a big overhead right from the very get-go. This is a big risk.
100%.
Right? How did you make that decision, and why did you make that decision?
Well, there was a big risk on that, but I also bought brand new van, like 35 grand van. Like, I had no money. This was paid monthly. So I had that. I had the insurances. I had the fuel costs. I had the business insurance. I had the staff. Like, my overheads
Huge risk
from the outgoing. My outgoings from the off was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
What's the rationale?
Sorry?
What's the rationale?
I want to succeed.
It was necessary.
It was necessary to provide what I wanted to provide, and elevate and build the business that I wanted to build.
What if you didn't get the business?
I'll make it.
That wasn't an option for you.
It's not an option. It's not like, I can't actually explain it into words. Like, if someone goes to me, "What if it doesn't work out?" I laugh. Like, I actually, like, that's not possible. It's just not. Like, people. Let's flip it, because people go, "Okay, it won't work out. It can't work out. It's not going to happen." Like, I'm literally the polar opposite. Like, there's no way that it cannot work, because I'll just keep going until it does. I'll keep building it. I'll keep doing it. If I need to get loans out, if I need to do whatever I have to do, I'll do, and I'll make it happen. And my construction company, once I got to a good point, it was just reassurance for me that consistency is key. Making sure that your morals and your ethics align and being consistent. That's what will make it happen. And I know for a fact, no matter what you do, if you want to start a business, go for it. Do not hold back in the very slightest. As soon as you start holding off, that's when you flop.
You have to be
Just
all in.
Go for
Completely.
it. All 100%.
Yeah.
Grab the bull by the horns and go for it.
But it seems to me also as well as that is the preparedness to actually put in the work, because you said
Of course, yeah.
failing was not an option, or this not happening was not an option. Me going bust is not an option, right? And the only way to really guarantee that is to have an absolute conviction that you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure it does succeed.
I think it's also very important to note that Lewis didn't just dive into that. He planned it meticulously. I remember being there.
You've been there for the whole
from the very beginning.
Just to note, I've been with his sister for 10 years, so he's seen me from the point that I was a bum.
A little shit.
I was a bum. I was a bum. I was a little shit. I was. He's seen me from the point that I was at my worst to this point now.
And to be fair to him, he's gained my respect over the years, especially through what he's done for business and everything else. And
we didn't always see to eye to eye at the early stages because I was with his sister and I was a little shit. Yeah. Let's be honest. That's as a brother's instinct.
Yeah, and but in recent years, at least, he's definitely gained my trust and respect. And I know that he just wants to deliver the best possible product and deliver the best possible service. And I trust him completely because I know what he wants and I want the exact same thing. That's why our morals align. And yeah,
and I'm glad you said that because sometimes it's diving head in, but like you said, it was planned meticulously.
Yeah.
Once you've planned, then it's like, okay, I'm just going to make this happen or whatever happens,
there's so much planning you could do. So I planned meticulously on what I was going to do, but you plan.
What's that thing they call it? Analysis paralysis or something like that, where you overanalyze something to the point where you just don't do anything. And you can't be like that. You have to have a solid plan in place, but you can't just allow yourself
stagnate.
To think that there's always something more that you can do. Sometimes you just have to dive in, and the best way to learn is through exposure. It's through throwing yourself into the fire or water and just learning how to swim. And I think that is the best way to do it. That's how I've learned the most.
I planned a lot, and then I just went.
You could have never expected any of the problems that you actually encountered.
Oh, never.
And you could have never planned for them.
Never. Like, there's so many problems that I was just like I was sitting there at one point, and I was just literally hitting my head against the steering wheel. I was like, how on earth is this happening? I was like, this guy that I was working with just rips people's houses off, gets loads of money and buggers off and still has loads of work. I'm sitting here like doing my best, got the right morals, the right ethics and doing everything possible, making sure I set myself up. Again, our construction company that I worked for before, the boss was an arsehole as well. I forgot to mention that part. So in my head, I was just like, right, treat your staff well, treat your customers well, and you will succeed. That was that's my
which is common, actually the opposite of your experience.
Yeah, which is the opposite of my experience. Yeah. And I think that that I've kept that throughout. Treat your staff well, the people you work with, treat them well, and your customers well, and you will succeed. That is my thing throughout. And I think that it's just continued from there. And
that's brilliant. Like just your energy, like really, really comes through. And I can see exactly kind of what you mean about you guys being yin and yang because you're just always very measured and calm, and you're just like, which it's really good to see because I can see the dynamics. I can see the dynamics, right? Yeah. But just kind of going back a little bit with yourself, Lewis, and then we'll come to you as well, James. You mentioned your partner and your daughter. You mentioned like it was really them that changed everything. Like what exactly do you mean? What happened?
So to be brutally honest, my partner was like, you need to stop smoking. You need to stop doing this. Rah, rah, rah. We're having a child. A child's coming into the world. Now, it's hard for me to just go, okay, because that didn't happen. I'm not going to sit here and say it did. But, when she was born and then, short period after that, realisation hit and there was I was at a crossroads in my life. I either continue to be a bum for the rest of my life or I sort myself out and slowly, steadily get on the right path, just get a decent job, hold it down and then slowly start growing from there. And I think my daughter, she's just like, people say to me before, how do you sort of downtime? How do you switch off? Because like you say, I'm full of energy, and believe it or not, I've actually dialed down today. I've actually tried to dial down for everyone. I know, you wouldn't believe it, but I've actually tried to dial down. But people say, you're full of energy and this, that, and the other. How do you, and you're constantly on the go, how do you sort of,
distress?
Exactly. And honestly, I've said it many times, I've said it to James as well, when we were out with the family, when we were all out and my little girls running about with all the family, and we'd all just having a laugh and playing rounders or bulldog or whatever we play, they're the moments where I don't think about work. I don't think about anything else. I just live in the moment. And then I'll grab my daughter and I throw her and this, that, and the other. And they're the points where I'm just like, yeah, okay, like this is what I want. This is what I'm working towards.
That's what
To have this all of the time, and that's what makes me go, cool. Right, let's tackle this head on because I'm going to have this all of the time. I'm 28, but it won't be long, and I'll have this all the time.
Absolutely. Wow, that's powerful. And then how about yourself, James? Like, what, during this period, what was going on in your life?
I think just quickly there, I think you should definitely, like you said to me, I think you should start from the beginning, and you know what I mean by the beginning, like because it's a completely different sort of aspect, but it's powerful and it's inspiring, man. So I think you should.
Yeah. Okay. So from the very beginning, since I started school, really, I've always been creative and I've always wanted to create things, and that's led me to be very entrepreneurial. I've started so many businesses in the past. Most have failed, but that's just the reality of it.
That's normal.
But yeah, it's normal. But I maybe started 10 businesses before one actually worked. From the age of 15, I started a t-shirt company. I used to sell sweets at school. I used to be one of those guys, obviously. Started a t-shirt company. Didn't have any clue what I was doing. Failed massively. I did so many different things: day trading, stocks. Loads of different things, basically. But up until the point of maybe where I really started to develop my business sort of acumen and that type of thing, it's when it was actually at my lowest point ever. It was only about 5 or 6 years ago where I basically come to a point where I was, to give you some context, I'm almost sure I've got ADHD, but I'm just all in or nothing. And it's good and bad. There's drawbacks and there's definitely pros to it as well, but what I usually do is I get obsessed with things and then I just do it until the point where I can't do it anymore. And I had a point in my life where I was completely burnt out mentally and physically at a very young age. But I was only 21 maybe, but I was obsessed with the gym. I was obsessed with working. I was obsessed with success, and it pushed me to the point where I was doing 6-7 days a week of work. I was working out 5 a.m. every day. When I'd finish my work shift, I would trying to start a business. I'd be trying to do something,
What, every day after work, you start a new business?
Every day. Well, not literally a new one, but like, you know what I mean? I was just burning the candle at both ends. I was always trying to strive for more, and I was completely neglecting my health. And it got to the point, because my brain was just constantly like obsessed with the next thing. That's the only way to succeed. I burnt myself out, and mentally and physically, I just, I sort of imploded. And for 2 years, nearly 2 years, I was just in a state of poor health, poor physical health. Despite going to the gym all the time, I went from 15 stone to about 10 stone. My mindset and my mind and everything and my mental state was just completely trashed. I was in the darkest place in my life, really. But in that time, my obsessive nature come back out, and I come from literally not being able to get out of bed at one point.
I think you should.
Where I was so ill and so tired, and my body, I had no muscle because I'd literally just stay in bed because I was so depressed and so anxious.
For a very long period of time.
For about 2 years, my anxiety and depression just literally, it kept me in bed. And my body deconditioned. I lost a lot of weight. I felt terrible. It got to the point where I couldn't even stand up.
What do you think triggered that? Because you said you were exercising every day, you were going to work, you were trying to start the business.
It was definitely burnout. It was a form of burnout. I mean, the doctors called it chronic fatigue syndrome, but to be honest, I don't like to accept that. I think it was more so it was my mind. I pushed myself too far, and I had a collapse basically, and my body just shut down. And I think it was so necessary. Looking back now, that point in my life, it was the only thing that really sort of reset me, and it made me think about what I really want to do and how I want to do it. And the only way for me to get through that was to be so introspective and so self-aware. I learned how to look at what was actually causing all these problems, and I made systematic decisions to sort of fix each and every one of those problems bit by bit, slowly. I started meditating, started walking, literally to the point I really can't exaggerate it enough. I was so ill, I couldn't even walk to the front door. Couldn't walk to the toilet.
Couldn't get out of bed for
literally couldn't get out of
18
bed.
months to 2 years.
You know, I'd stand up and I'd have
really bad.
heart palpitations. I feel like I'm just going to pass out. You know, that type of thing. It was terrible. It was a terrible time in my life. But I didn't want to give up. So I got to the point where I was...
The term of one step at a time is literally what he lived.
I mean, I started walking. Before all of that stuff, like I would get up at 6 a.m. because I read about circadian rhythms and how that can affect your health and that type of thing. So I would get up when the sun rose and I would expose myself to the sun and I would, make sure I was doing everything as healthily as possible, meditating, all that type of thing, reducing stimulus and all that type of thing. And then I started walking, and bit by bit, I walked 10 steps, and then 15 steps, and then 100 steps, and then I walked to the shop. Every day was a little bit further, wasn't it? A little bit shop. A little bit more, and then, over the course of about 6 months, I slowly started walking again. I slowly started exercising. Then I got a dog, and, Now
this guy comes to gym with me 5 days a week and runs 10Ks.
Yeah. But, I mean, in that time, I sort of neglected to sort of state that I had a YouTube business that I started when I first started getting ill, and basically that YouTube business sustained me for the whole time that I was ill. I earned about 45, 50 grand for over the course of about 2 years, and that sort of sustained me to live. And at the same time as well, I was also doing a degree. I started a degree because I knew that I wanted more and I needed to educate myself. I started doing a business and economics degree, and that is where I found most of my knowledge. I did it through the Open University, and yeah, that was very, very difficult because obviously I was still ill at the time, and I had to force myself to get up and learn. So during
burnout, you still had a business running, and you were doing Open University as well. Yeah, you didn't listen to the doctors then. No.
And that, it's sort of just it's who I am. I'm just so.
He had two choices there, like. Crossroads can be at any given point. And this is what I say, put you versus you, not you versus someone else. My crossroads and his crossroads were at different points in our life, but they are still both the exact same in terms of...
Decision.
Yeah. He had two choices. He either stayed in bed and accepted that he was ill and, asked for help and this, that and the other.
Been on the dole for the rest of my life, that type of thing.
And he decided not to. There was a crossroads.
Wow.
Accept where he is, or make shit happen. And that's what you've done.
That's amazing.
Much. And after that point, I slowly started getting better. I slowly started building up my confidence again. I got a job at Asda, part-time. Literally, at first I was doing one shift a week.
Just to build your confidence, yeah?
Literally. Like, just, to me at that time, that was difficult for me. Like, just doing a 4-hour shift at Asda was very difficult for me. But I knew that it wasn't even about the money that Asda was going to give me. It was more about getting myself back out there and building myself up. You have to understand, I come from a point of complete, desolation. I was completely destroyed as a person. I was broken, mentally and physically, and I had to rebuild myself brick by brick. I worked at Asda, and then I met this great guy. I'm not going to name his name, but he introduced me to a lot of property. I started.
Thank you.
He introduced me to a lot of property. He's a multi-millionaire. I started doing a lot of things for him from the YouTube. I started doing a lot with him and doing some of his YouTube work for him. After that, he introduced me to a few other people. I started in construction about 4 or 5 years ago, and from there I found a love of construction and property because construction allows me to be it's creativity, isn't it? I mean, it's the true expression of creativity because you're just creating things out of nothing. You get materials and you make it. You make a house or you make an extension or anything. And to me, that appeals to me greatly. So from there, I started delving more and more into property, and I love the whole idea of taking something that's broken down and rebuilding it because it's close to my heart. Where I come from a point where I was broken down completely, and I had to rebuild myself into a better person from who I was before. And now I get to do that on a daily basis with our projects. We take smashed up houses that I've not had any love or attention for years and years, and we create them into something that's beautiful and beneficial to our clients. You know,
it's beneficial to our clients, but it's also helping with the housing, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. It's I mean, we focus primarily, our main business model is based around social housing. So we create HMOs that we basically sign up to social housing.
What's a HMO?
Oh, so a HMO is a house of multiple occupation. So it's where basically more than 4 people will live in a house separated by rooms, and there's communal areas and that type of thing.
Unrelated
it's cohabitation, basically.
Okay.
But what we do is primarily we create these HMOs to onboard onto social housing programs to help with the social housing crisis. There's so much demand from the big 5 companies within social housing that provide social housing to the Home Office. That it's literally insatiable. There's not enough housing for everyone.
Yeah.
So the only way, that we found that we could be ethical and moral, is in terms of property investing and creating developments and that type of thing, is to integrate a model that is going to actually provide some benefit to people that are less fortunate. Because the social housing programs that we sign our HMOs up to, they provide housing to the most vulnerable people, victims of abuse, asylum seekers, victims of, domestic violence and that type of thing. And we feel like it's a perfect representation of who we are as people, because that's what we want to do. We want to do good.
Of course, we take the property and we renovate it, convert it, uplifting the value of the property. It's a good investment for our investors. Morally, it's good for us, the whole process, as well as onboarding and housing. So if we do a 3 to 6 bed, housing 6 vulnerable tenants and helping with the housing. So
otherwise, you have to understand, those people would be homeless if your only option is a social housing occupation that's being provided by the government, and if that's your only option, if you're a single mum with a child and that's your only option, that if no one's producing those homes, you're homeless. If someone has to produce those rooms for
demand.
And it's like I love hearing that, because even within my family, for example. So my little sister just recently was having issues actually finding a property to rent, and she was giving me a stick about landlords, and and I was kind of trying to educate her on the realities of the landscape, regulations, and all these sort of things, right? And how it's not actually all of this money people talking about, but just listening to you two and just kind of really matching your values to the product. Yes, you're monetizing from it, right?
Of course.
But it's like any other business, but the fact that you're creating such huge value to the economy as well. And, forget the economy, but to actually people's lives, you speak very passionately about that. That means a lot, right?
That's it. I mean, there's ways of making money, and, everyone is here to make money, right? Everyone that's watching this, you, me, everyone that, within business is out to make money. Let's not hide that fact. Of course we want to make money and provide the life that we want to provide, but there's ethical ways about going about it. You don't have to skin people along the way in order to do it. You can make good money with the right morals and ethics, and that's that will propel us in the right way. And I believe even if it is a slight hindrance to our success, I would rather cap ourselves to a certain limitation, but know that we've done our business within the right morals and ethics, especially from the moment I started LMP.
Well, to be honest, was like, if you look at the trajectory that you guys are on now, and that I have absolutely no doubt you're going to continue to carry on, I did something as well the other day, and I said there is a direct correlation between the amount of people you give value to and actually how much money you make.
Of course.
And people tend to get this wrong, I don't know who this person is that you guys are talking about. You think you can, rip people off and all that sort of stuff. And yes, you're going to make some money, but you're not going to build a multi-million, £1 billion brand, are you?
Of course
it's
not.
It's not going to happen. It's not sustainable. So
you can't continue to do that and expect to continue to just make money, because eventually you'll piss off the wrong person.
Exactly.
But you're limiting yourself. If you keep doing that, let's look at the morals and ethics. We know that that's wrong. But let's look at the sustainability. If you have, I don't know, X amount of people in your town,
return customers.
There's only, you definitely only ever return customers. And secondly, there's only so many people in the town. Mm-hmm. How many people can you rip off before you go, I'm out of people?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've got to move.
Yeah,
Got moved,
exactly.
man.
Unfortunately,
And
that's
this
the truth.
person,
They do.
he's changed the company name about 4 times. They've moved. They're operating in different areas now. But you know, it's not sustainable. Not the right morals or ethics. It's just so many. It's just obviously a no-brainer not to be that way inclined.
Amazing. Like, honestly, like guys, I'm super impressed with you two. Like what you guys are doing so far. I know we haven't really had too much time to really delve into a lot of the things that I would really love to talk about. You know, getting into the property, the deals, all the sort of stuff. You know, I'll definitely love to have you two back. You know, to really kind of delve into that for sure. But yeah, it's just really kind of crazy to think of where I feel like your limit is. I don't see that. You know,
No.
I genuinely feel that you guys are going to achieve incredible things. You're already doing that now, but I feel like you've got no limit. You know, and I'm really looking forward to see how you guys' careers kind of progress over the coming like months and years.
Of course,
so really looking forward
we've
to
got a
that.
lot of things going on in the background that's going to propel us in the right light. Like I said, big marketing team, videography team, things like this. Thank you to yourself for having us on. And,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
brilliant opportunity.
All of these type of things is going to continue to propel us. And likewise, you know, look at what you're doing. You should be extremely happy with yourself.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
The key thing that sort of, you know, it made us gravitate towards you was seeing you at that event in Colchester.
It was someone who's got massive energy. If someone's got high energy, I was
it's
like,
the
nah.
energy, but also for me, it's the story. You know, it's so inspiring, and I genuinely connected with your message of actually, I understand that all you want to do is show people that you don't just have to accept where you are. You can always progress, and you can always make your life better through action, perseverance, and hard work. You know, that doesn't matter where you come from. And I mean, you're a perfect example of it, and so is Lewis. And I hope that I am. That's the life that I want to I want to lead my life by that example, and I want to show people that if you're in a bad position right now, you can always do something to make it better. And even if that's the smallest step, that's the right step to take.
Exactly, like I was saying about upgrading car, upgrading whatever you're doing. That's literally one step at a time, like you done. And like your story that you shared at the networking event, I think that's why the story that you shared, like we shared similar stories with how we, evolved, if you like. But yeah, you evolving and your energy.
Yeah. Do you know what I think is so interesting is that a lot of successful people have been through intense adversity, and it's the adversity that drives and molds that person that is so important. You know, you can't be successful without going through difficult things, because it's the difficulties that make you learn. It's the difficulties that expand your knowledge. And if you don't go through those things, you're never going to get that knowledge.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like the school of hard knocks. You know, like if you grow up in difficult conditions, you're going to be a resilient person. And ultimately, that's what, in our personal lives and our lifestyles, that's the reason we go to the gym. That's the reason why that's why we run, We're not natural runners, but by a long shot.
Speak for yourself.
We try. We do try. But, it's those things. It's seeking out difficult things because we know the benefit of seeking out those things. You learn by doing difficult things. And I think it's brilliant that you're here where you are today, and we're here where we are today because we've chose those difficult decisions.
Of course.
Absolutely. Love that. Gents, okay. So we're coming to the final question now.
Okay.
And I'm really looking forward to this actually, because
I'm going to let you take this one first.
yeah,
I don't know what
you guys have you have done incredible, all right? And like I said, there is no ceiling for you, but I want you guys to tell us, like, today, like, what is your need to succeed now?
My need to succeed is purely based around providing a secure life for my family. And the only way that I can do that is through implementing a moral business model, and making that a success, and ultimately achieving things that I want to achieve, not necessarily for monetary reasons, not necessarily for money, but achieving things that I set out to do. That gives me purpose in life, and that's why I choose to want to succeed and want to improve myself, because ultimately I'm a curious guy and I like to make things happen.
Yeah. I like it. My need to succeed, I think, as I might have said at the beginning with my daughter and my missus, and those memories that we had as a family and we have as a family, they're the things that I want all of the time. So what I'm doing right now is I'm in the process of making that happen all of the time, and just striving for more. And I know, like you said, there's no ceiling. So I know that there's no limitation for where I want to be. I'm going to decide when to stop, and I'm going to decide when it's time for me to come out and spend that time with the family, which is my ultimate goal.
No, again, it's a life by design. It's what you decide you want your life to be like.
Whatever I decide right now when I walk out of here, whatever I decide is going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years is what's going to happen. Whether I want to become a billionaire, whether I want to stop at a certain millionaire status, whether I want to stop slightly before it, wherever it may be, and then come out, that's what I'll decide to do.
Amazing. Lewis and James, thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thanks
having us
a lot,
on. It's been brilliant.
Amazing.